Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So there is a lot of stuff going on at Gibson right now. You guys have asked for my thoughts. Let's talk about it. So first of all, Gibson has a new CEO again. GC, James Curley's reign is over after almost 5 years at the helm, and I cannot believe it's been almost 5 years already. Half a decade. How is that possible? It does not feel that long since Gibson went bankrupt and Henry J was ousted. But so the statement reads, in typical Gibson corporate gusto, Gibson Brands Incorporated, the world's most iconic guitar brand, today announced that its board of directors has appointed Cesar Guequian. I keep forgetting how his name is pronounced. Guequian? Cesar G, Gibson's brand president, as president and interim chief executive officer, effective immediately. So wow, we kind of knew this would happen eventually. We saw it with Levi's. JC's a guy that specializes in revitalizing companies with heritage. And Gibson is undoubtedly in a much better place in terms of quality, in terms of reputation, in terms of focus, also in terms of not being bankrupt compared to where they were when the JC era began. He came in with a job to do, and he fucking did it. The current situation is a bit weird though, in that it doesn't really follow any of the best practices for a healthy, planned transition. Because when you're replacing a key executive, you want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. The employees, the investors, the retail partners. You want a common narrative. You want a transition period of a few weeks so there's no organizational disruption. This though kind of came out of nowhere very quickly. JC's LinkedIn hasn't even been updated at time of filming, so was it planned? Was he ousted? I will let you speculate. We're just gonna have to wait and see if there's any solid details that emerge. Either way, I wouldn't expect too much change from them in the short term. Cesar joined about the same time as JC. Gibson's strategy, business-wise at least, is working right now. Cesar has been particularly aggressive with growing the artist roster. And speaking of a growing roster, it seems that 48,756% of viewers have not joined the roster of subscribers. So go ahead and do that now if you're enjoying the content. It actually really helps out the channel. And going back to Cesar G, actually in the internet age, I think having someone who's so active and accessible on social media is great for Gibson, especially since his posts emphasize just how much he lives and breathes Gibson guitars. Go check it out. When a new artist model drops, you can tell he's just ecstatic to be working with some of his musical heroes, whether it's Kirk Hammett, whether it's Dave Mustaine, Slash. It's actually kind of wholesome. He's also a master of the tactical tease. When we talk about upcoming leaks and models and releases, a lot of it is straight from Cesar's Instagram. It's like, in addition to his executive role, he also does the job we all thought Mark Agnesi was going to do when he was brought on. But yeah, I would bet that the average guitar consumer will not notice any difference with Gibson, even with this new interim CEO in charge. Whether that post becomes permanent or a new person comes in, we'll just have to wait and see. Watch it be Mark Agnesi. But I'm going to take this opportunity, since we're on the topic of Gibson, to talk about something that does concern me a little bit, and that is Gibson's Certified Vintage program. Basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. Certified vintage guitars sold directly by Gibson to collectors. Now, in principle, it's a cool concept. It's Gibson leveraging their legacy and their heritage in a great way, because the used market can be a minefield. There are so many progressively convincing fake Gibsons out there. Back in the day, it was so easy to spot a fake. Most of them had something stupid like a 3-screw truss rod cover instead of 2 screws, dumb shit like that. Not anymore. And if the Gibson is real, there are ones that have been irreversibly modded, ones that have suffered major damage that sellers might not know about or intentionally not disclose. That literally just happened to me. Link in the cards to my nightmare eBay story you can check out after this video. So for the buyer, there's more peace of mind. There's a better sense of security if you're buying pristine vintage examples authenticated and appraised by Gibson themselves, rather than from random Jackass 69 on eBay. And the models they've listed so far have been very nice examples. Rare models like an original 61 Les Paul SG Custom, a 58 Black Beauty, a wild 85 Designer Series Flying V with a Kaler, and they even managed to find a buyer, miraculously, for an 82 Moderne. These are time capsule pieces, and because they're coming from Gibson, they've got a warranty, comes with a detailed letter of appraisal confirming the, quote, provenance and history of the instrument, signed by both Gibson Senior Director of Product Development, Matt Kohler, and Director of Brand Experience, Mark Agnesi himself. However, I'm a bit wary of any brand that gets involved with the used market because whether intentional or not, they can basically use their official position to affect pricing. The current market is already overinflated enough, but if there's one thing that we know about Gibson, besides that they make some fantastic Les Pauls, is that they protect their brand.
Play authentic.
That is their number one asset. That's how they sell their guitars. That's how their guitars retain their value. These days, Gibsons are just as much collectibles as they are instruments, and we've seen Gibson really conspicuously play into this recently. They always kind of have with the limited number artist runs, but then this year especially, you've had the $50,000 Kirk Hammett Greenies, the Epiphone Adam Jones art collection customs. So I don't want to go all conspiracy theorist on this, but I would not put it past Gibson to use this opportunity to pump up the value of their vintage instruments and directly influence the pricing of vintage Gibsons on the used market, because the higher the price of those vintage instruments, the more it adds to the legend, to the lore, provenance, and history, as Gibson themselves put it. That's what grows the strength of their brand. So even if they're not inflating the values now, and Gibson being Gibson, I'll let you speculate on that again, but even if they're not inflating the values right now, them putting themselves in a position to almost dictate vintage pricing is a dangerous scenario. Let me know if you agreed, or am I overthinking this? And the last thing I want to talk about is they just dropped some highly anticipated new 80s models, new 40-year-old designs. Now it seems someone jumped the gun because the 80s Explorer and 80s Flying V in Ebony are on Sweetwater and on Thomann, even though they're not officially listed on Gibson's own website yet. These are heavily based on 84 spec models in particular, and listen, I don't even like Explorers, but as a massive Metallica fan, I might need to get one. Even though these don't have Hetfield's name on them, I feel like they still owe him some money for how well these are gonna sell. The key features here are the unique 80s control layouts and the hot 80s tribute humbuckers. I'm disappointed they still haven't been able to figure out something official with James. Kirk, talk to your boy. But for now, this is as close to a Gibson Hetfield model as we're gonna get. And again, we know from Cesar's Instagram, an Olympic white version is on the way at some point. That's the one I'm holding out on. But I think I've said all I wanted to say. Here's where I'll throw it to you. New CEO, certified vintage program, new 80s models. What's your take on the state of Gibson right now? Let me know what you're thinking down below, and please try to keep it civil. Massive thanks to my amazing patrons who make each and every video possible. Their names are up on the screen right now. Consider joining them if you want to support what I do. You can also join as a channel member or pick up some comfy merch. I basically reinvest everything back into the channel, so thank you in advance for helping me make better and better content. Social media, Discord, and affiliate links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video.